Bernie told me something, I believed it because he never lied to me. He told me that when he got Oceans, Steve called the producers to try to get his role and even wanted to take less.
You know, Steve at one point was, uber successful, and then Bernie started to, because he didn't ever think he would get the opportunity he got. But once he did, America loved him, like we all kind of knew they would. And he decided to go a different way.
And then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he the principal, and he wear.
7 black comedians have just blown the lid off Steve Harvey's rise to fame. And trust me, it's messy. Mark Curry is calling Steve out for stealing his material, while others say Harvey built his entire empire on their backs and even ruined careers to get ahead. This might finally be the real story behind America's favorite game show uncle. Back in the early 90s, both Mark Curry and Steve Harvey were hustling on the same comedy circuit, grinding for a breakthrough in an industry that barely gave black comedians any room to breathe.
I'm Mr. Hightower, the new music teacher. I'm here to see the
Mr. Cooper, coach, teacher, janitor. You're a real triple threat.
Why are you on my material? Right. What's that about? And then, people want to jump up. Oh, he didn't know, he didn't steal your... So, yeah.
Curry actually broke through first, securing his ABC sitcom Hanging with Mr. Cooper in 1992, a full 4 years before the Steve Harvey show ever hit TV. The series ran for 5 seasons and turned Curry into a household name, playing a former NBA player turned high school coach, trying to stay cool with his students. He and Steve were tight back then, but that friendship didn't stay smooth for long.
Comedy Jam 25. It's good to see so many funny people together in one room, all wondering the same thing. Is Cat Williams gonna show up?
I'm nervous as hell right now.
Bernie told me something, and I believed him because he never lied to me, Curry said. Bernie claimed that when he landed Oceans, Steve called the producers behind his back, trying to snag the role for himself, even offering to take less money just to replace him.
Steve at one point was, uber successful, and then Bernie started to, because he didn't ever think he would get the opportunity he got. But once he did, America loved him, like we all kind of knew they would. And he decided to go a different way.
This is the same Steve who used to sit in the audience and watch Mark Curry run his entire sitcom. The two of them used to talk deep about comedy, about breaking through as black men in Hollywood when the doors were barely cracked open. Curry says he even shared his whole sitcom concept with Steve, a comedian working at a school, keeping kids in check while blending humor with real-life heart. And this wasn't just casual talk. They built out characters, plots, even how to make school life funny without turning it corny. Then in 1996, the Steve Harvey show dropped, and suddenly it looked almost identical. A comedian turned teacher, guiding students with jokes and life lessons. The parallels were crazy. Both leads were ex-athletes turned educators. Both became vice principals. Both mentor troubled kids. Even the episode structure felt way too close for comfort.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. You know what I mean? It was like the idea of the joke that he was even talking about.
The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he the principal and he wear a suit.
You don't do your material around a lot of comedians. That's like stealing in front of the police.
We've been friends for 30 years, man.
Oh, wow.
30 years. That's big. Man, that's crazy. Man. You know how people say that about marriage? That's a long time in Hollywood to be friends.
Curry felt betrayed, but he kept his mouth shut for years because he knew Hollywood didn't play fair when one black star publicly called out another. Staying silent was survival. Back then, black entertainers were told to keep the peace. No beefs, no exposing each other, no stirring the industry. So while Steve's show blew up and Curry's spotlight faded, he stayed quiet, swallowing the hurt while Harvey's success kept rising.
That I was just a no-name comedian and that he could take this joke and nobody would know.
Right.
The issue was that I had already done this particular joke on BET's Comic View twice.
Bernie, felt like he didn't want to do it anymore. He was on his own path, and Steve. So, nothing like that ever happens or doesn't happen for a reason. So I was disappointed. But
just saying, I can't let these dudes lie. Cedric's sitting here telling you why he ain't a movie star. He over here look like a walrus. You didn't say nothing. This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week.
Bernie is one of those people, like certain other people in my life, that I knew very well. Stretch told me something, I will believe it because he never lied to me. Bernie told me something, I believed it because he never lied.
Then in 2019, Curry went on the Mike and Donnie show and dropped another bomb. He said Steve stole his Halloween jokes too. According to Curry, Harvey even took real stories from his life and performed them on TV like they were his own. When Curry saw it, he was stunned. That was material straight out of his world. He says he confronted Steve about it at Def Comedy Jam 25, but Harvey acted clueless, like he didn't know what Curry was talking about. Fast forward to 2024. Cat Williams brings the whole situation back to life on Club Shay Shay, flat out saying Steve stole almost everything from Mark Curry. And that's when the internet finally lost it. After Cat's interview, fans went deep, comparing scenes from Hanging with Mr. Cooper and the Steve Harvey show side by side. People were pulling clips with the same setups, similar jokes, even the same character types. It felt way too close to chalk up as coincidence. More like Steve borrowed a little too heavily. And Steve? He never addressed a thing. No comments, no denial, no explanation. Just silence as his career kept soaring while Curry slipped deeper into the background. By the early 2000s, Harvey was headlining the original Kings of Comedy with Cedric, D.L. Hughley, and Bernie Mac, selling out arenas nationwide. Spike Lee's concert film became iconic. But behind the scenes, it wasn't all laughs. Bernie was the breakout star, raw, real, and effortlessly hilarious. And word was Steve hated how much love Bernie was getting. Then in 2003, Bernie Mac dropped a bombshell in GQ magazine. He said Steve Harvey went behind his back trying to get him kicked off the Kings of Comedy tour, all because he couldn't handle Bernie's shine. Bernie put it plainly, Steve Harvey tried to get me fired. That line shook the comedy world. This wasn't creative competition. Bernie was calling out pure betrayal. Radio host Ed Lover later confirmed it, saying Bernie personally told him the same story. Steve tried to dim his light. The tension got so bad the second Kings of Comedy tour fell apart. They couldn't even share a room. Bernie kept elevating. The Bernie Mac show, movies, major success, but he never patched things up with Steve. When Bernie passed in 2008, they still hadn't made peace. And even then, Steve avoided the truth, only offering a vague, Bernie was a special dude, while dodging the real issue. Then on January 3rd, 2024, Cat Williams sat down with Shannon Sharpe and completely torched Steve Harvey's polished image. The interview blew past 80 million views, and Cat didn't hesitate for even a moment. He ripped into Harvey's whole rise to fame, claiming Steve stole Mark Curry's sitcom concept, used Cat's own homeless story for sympathy, and built a career on other people's material. Cat even said Steve was part of a circle of comedians, including Cedric the Entertainer, who protected each other while allegedly stealing from up-and-coming comics trying to survive. What made it hit so hard was Cat's delivery. The man sounded real. He came with details, examples, and straight confidence. He wasn't speculating. He was speaking from experience, and he dared Steve to respond. After that interview, the entire comedy world went up in flames. Some folks rushed to defend Steve, saying Cat was just salty. But others, including Mark Curry and Godfrey, backed Cat without hesitation and came with their own receipts. Suddenly, the whole conversation shifted to loyalty, stealing, and accountability in the comedy world. And Cat's timing? Perfect. He waited until his career was solid and untouchable. He knew when he spoke, people would listen, and the industry would shake. Overnight, Steve went from America's favorite uncle to one of comedy's most questioned figures. Then Godfrey chimed in and took things even further. He doubled down on Cat's claims and added his own. According to him, Steve's joke stealing wasn't random at all. It was intentional. Godfrey said Harvey would watch younger comics tear the room up, memorize their best bits, then flipped those same lines on larger stages before those comedians even got their shot. Godfrey didn't sugarcoat it either. He said Steve would slide into clubs, sit in the back like he was just chilling, and quietly study everybody's set. Then a week later, you'd hear your own punchlines on Showtime at the Apollo or an HBO special. And what could you really do? Godfrey said it bluntly. You're a nobody. He's Steve Harvey. Inside comedy circles, Steve's rep was rough. New comics were warned never to perform their best jokes if Steve was in the room. And anyone who spoke up about it, blackballed. Godfrey said it wasn't by accident. This was Steve's entire playbook. He'd target talented but unconnected comics, take the jokes, and run them on bigger platforms like they were his. What made Godfrey's comments sting even more is that he wasn't Kat's friend, wasn't Curry's ally. He had nothing to gain. He was simply confirming what comedians had whispered for decades. Suddenly, people began asking how Steve managed to keep this up for so long, and why Hollywood kept covering for him. DL hugely ended up in a tricky position. As one of the original kings of comedy with Steve, Bernie, and Cedric, he'd seen the real behind-the-scenes tension. But calling Steve out publicly could jeopardize his own relationships. After Kat shook the internet, DL tried to play it cool on interviews. He admitted Bernie and Steve's issues were real, serious enough to destroy the Second Kings of Comedy tour. But he stopped just short of pointing fingers. DL said Bernie felt strongly about some things, and Steve felt strongly about some things. They couldn't move past it. Smooth wording, but fans read between the lines. He later praised Bernie's honesty and character, hinting that Bernie wasn't the type to fabricate drama, and that alone spoke volumes. DL talked about how deeply hurt Bernie was, pain that stuck with him until his passing in 2008. The way DL spoke, calm, careful, almost too careful, confirmed more than it denied. By saying the feud was strong enough to end the tour, he was basically admitting Steve did something big. Then October 2024 rolled around, and black comedy in America brought Steve, Cedric, and DL together to clear the air. But DL's body language told the whole story. He looked uncomfortable defending Steve. He gave Bernie his flowers, acknowledged the real tension, and never once called Kat a liar. He just said the situation was complicated. Cedric, though, he went all in for Steve. As his longtime partner in comedy, he defended Steve hard, calling Kat's interview revisionist history. But the harder Cedric defended him, the more fans side-eyed the whole thing. What was he really trying to protect? Cedric insisted Steve never stole anything, even claiming that the homeless story was actually Steve's own life, not Kat's. He painted Steve as the victim, surrounded by bitter comedians jealous of his success. But Cedric's explanations never addressed the real questions. He didn't explain why the Steve Harvey show mirrored Mark Curry's sitcom so closely, or why both Bernie Mac and Ed Lover told the same story about Steve's betrayal. Too many voices from too many different eras were saying the same thing, and Cedric dodged all of it. And to make matters worse, Cedric wasn't exactly spotless himself. Back in 2007, Joe Torre and a few other comics accused him of stealing jokes for his special. Cedric denied everything, but the stain stuck. So when he rushed to defend Steve, a lot of fans saw it as one alleged joke thief writing for another. Cat Williams claimed Steve and Cedric were covering for each other when it came to stolen material. And honestly, it added up. If Steve ever got exposed, Cedric's own history would come flying right back to the surface. During that October 2024 interview, Cedric tried keeping the narrative clean, saying Bernie was like family and that no foul play ever happened, but then in the same breath admitted the beef was real and serious. That contradiction told the whole story. If everything was all love, why wasn't there a second tour? Why did Bernie run to GQ to put his truth on record? Cedric sounded more like he was protecting the brand than protecting the truth. Then Ed Lover, a respected radio OG with zero reason to lie, jumped in and confirmed Bernie's version. He said Bernie told him directly about Steve's betrayal years earlier. That outside validation shook the room. It proved Bernie's accusations weren't some old magazine rumor. Bernie didn't exaggerate. He didn't need to. He was known for brutal honesty, even when it cost him roles. According to Ed, Bernie wasn't quietly suffering in the background. He was talking about Steve's alleged betrayal as it was happening. He confided in multiple people, explaining how Steve went behind his back, trying to get him cut from the Kings of Comedy tour. These weren't whispers. They were real-time reactions from a man dealing with betrayal from someone he once considered a brother. Ed Lover also exposed the deep silence in the comedy industry, how there's a long-standing code to protect the big names no matter what. Steve had the money, the connections, and the clout to shut down anybody who tried to speak up. Ed said flat out, everybody knew Steve was doing grimy stuff. But what are you going to do? He's Steve Harvey. And those few words explained everything. The fear, the silence, the years of secrecy. For a lot of up-and-coming comics, calling out somebody like Steve wasn't just career suicide. It was social exile. Clubs would stop booking you. Producers would stop returning calls. And your name would quietly disappear from every opportunity you were supposed to get. Ed said that's exactly why Bernie's accusations stayed low. The industry wasn't willing to challenge one of its biggest stars. He also made it very clear Bernie wasn't the type to lie. His honesty was legendary. So when Bernie told him Steve tried to get him fired, Ed believed it instantly. Hearing it from someone outside the core feud made it hit different. It turned old rumors into confirmed stories, showing that comedians have been whispering the same thing for decades. And suddenly the pattern became impossible to ignore. Different people from different eras, all describing Steve Harvey's behavior the same way. It wasn't gossip anymore, it was a trail. By 2025, Steve was living the life. Hosting Family Feud, dominating radio, stacking endorsement checks, and standing as one of the most recognizable TV personalities in America. On paper, he was the success story. A man who fought poverty and became a multi-million-dollar empire. But Cat Williams' club, Shay interview shattered that image overnight. The clip went nuclear, over 80 million views and counting. Suddenly, everybody was replaying old footage, comparing clips, and studying every detail. Internet sleuths found side-by-side videos showing Mark Curry's jokes and Steve's performances lining up almost word for word. Stuff that looked like inspiration before suddenly looked exactly like copying. Bernie Mac's 2003 GQ interview resurfaced too, spreading all over social media as fans pieced everything together. More comedians who had kept quiet for years finally started talking. Some shared stories about stolen bits. Others talked about being pushed out of opportunities after crossing Steve. The dam broke. And when people expected Steve to finally speak humbly, he did the exact opposite. At a 2020 InvestFest event, he laughed off the accusations and threw shots at Cat, saying, "I'd knock you short out. I'd shoot the perm straight out your head." That moment exposed everything critics have been saying for years. Instead of addressing the claims, he snapped back with threats and ego. And that one clip turned a bad situation into a PR meltdown. As the backlash grew, Steve's tough talk started backfiring. By late 2024, he completely switched up, trying to sound humble on the Pivot podcast. He said, "I probably shouldn't have said anything," and even claimed he apologized to Cat for disrespecting him. But to a lot of people, the apology sounded more like PR cleanup than remorse. Because here's the truth. Steve still never addressed the actual accusations. He never denied using stolen jokes. He never explained why the Steve Harvey show mirrored Mark Curry's sitcom so closely. He never confronted what Bernie exposed in GQ. Instead, he brushed it off, calling it hate and jealousy from people mad about what they didn't have. That kind of deflection only made the internet louder. Fans started calling him out for dodging accountability while pretending to be the victim. His public image flipped overnight. One minute, he was America's friendly TV uncle, and the next he was trending for all the wrong reasons. People began digging through old interviews, rewatching comedy specials, and realizing just how much had been ignored for years. But now the question is, was Steve Harvey really misunderstood? Or did the truth finally catch up to him? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe for more wild celebrity deep dives, and I'll see you in the next one.